Welcome back. Let's spend a few minutes thinking about our profit maximization rules for a competitive firm. So we're thinking about our profit maximization rules. So essentially, all of these start from the same spot, and that's the first thing the firm does. Its main thing is it finds the quantity where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. Right? So find the quantity where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Why is that so important? Well, if marginal cost is increasing with production, then what happens? The firm keeps deciding, does it make the next unit? Does it make the next unit? And as long as marginal revenue, what's coming in, is greater than marginal cost, what's going out, they continue to produce more units until they reach that quantity where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. So this is our story of if somebody offered to give you $5 for every $4 you gave them, would you take that deal? Absolutely. Then they say in the next round, okay, let's do it again. They'll give you $5, but this time you've got to give them $5. You're like, probably okay. And then one more round where they say they'll give you $5, but now you've got to give them $6. You're like, I'm out, right? So you keep playing that game until you get as much back as you're giving. The firm is doing the same thing. It keeps playing that game until marginal revenue equals marginal cost. And that's the quantity where it stops, right? That's our optimal quantity, or what we could call Q star. All right, so once we're at Q star, then the question is, should the firm shut down? Should it stay in business in the short run, or should it stay in for the long run? So we found this optimal quantity, Q star. Then the question is, what does the firm do? So if at Q star, the firm's marginal revenue, or its price, is less than average variable cost. This is really jargony. We'll put plain English on it in just a second. So if its marginal revenue or its price is less than average variable cost, it should shut down. So if at Q star, we'll just go comma, price is less than average variable cost. What does this mean? This means that the price the firm is selling the good for is less than the labor and materials it costs to make the good. Right? They're not even worried about fixed costs yet. They're not even worried about rent. They're just looking at, is it worth paying the employees to come in and make this good? And if the answer is no, then what should they do? Then the firm should shut down. So if at Q star, price is less than average variable cost, then the firm shuts down immediately. Right? It just shuts down tomorrow. So that's if at that optimal quantity where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, price is less than average variable cost. In other words, they can't even afford to pay the workers to come in, then they just close the doors. Yes, they continue to lose money on rent, but if they bring the workers in and produce units, then they lose even more. So the best option there is just shut down immediately. All right, what about sort of the middle case? So if at Q star, now we've got a situation where our price is sort of somewhere in this middle range. So price is less than average total cost, but is greater than average variable cost. All right, what does that mean? So that means the firm is able to sell their item, right, at this price, their marginal revenue, what they get for that next unit, or their average price, average revenue, whatever you want to think of with this price, right? Because for a competitive firm, price is fixed. They take it from the market as given. All right, so at that price, at the market price, if they're more than covering their variable costs. So this means the firm is more than covering the cost of the labor and supplies required to produce the unit. So for each unit they make, they're selling it for more than the labor and supplies involved in producing it. But they're not selling it for enough to cover the labor, supplies, and their fixed costs, like rent. So that means when they sell and produce, they make a little bit off of it that they can put towards rent, but not enough to cover all the rent. So in that case, what should the firm do? So the firm produces Q star in the short run, right? While their fixed costs are fixed, in other words, while rent can't change, they're locked into a lease, etc. So they produce that optimal quantity where marginal revenue equals marginal cost in the short run, but they exit the market in the long run. So exit market in the long run. So what does this mean? This means, yes, they're losing money in the short run, but they would lose even more money if they stop production, right? Because their price is greater than the labor and supplies. So it makes sense to produce in the short run, cover some of those fixed costs, even if not all of them. So they produce Q star in the short run, and then once the lease comes up, right, so long run, when these fixed costs become flexible and variable, they exit the market and they close down. And then finally, what's the third case? So the third case is if at Q star. Now you've got a situation, this is the best case, right? So if at Q star, price is greater than average total cost. So this means they're selling the units for more than it costs them to produce them, including their fixed costs, including labor, including supplies, right? This is a situation where the firm is truly profitable. So if at Q star the price is greater than their average total cost, what does that mean? That means the firm stays in the market, produces Q star, and makes a profit. This is the world we're looking for. If we're an entrepreneur, right? This is the world we want to be in, where our firm is profitable, where we're selling for more than our total costs. That's the objective. Now, what happens when we have this situation? Is this a permanent situation? Oftentimes not. So this would be, how long can they do this, right? Until other firms enter. And then they've got to reassess. So if you're looking at it, wait, I was following and tracking until this. What does this mean? So if we have a company that's just crushing it, suppose that this is a coffee shop and they're really profitable. What happens? Somebody walks in the coffee shop, looks around and goes, wow, this place is making money. I can do that too, right? So then they jump into the market. That pushes price down. Right? Other firms enter because they're profit opportunities. So these other firms enter, increasing supply, pushing price down, and then firms have to reassess their situation and see, are they still profitable or not? We'll think about that idea more in other videos. Right now, hopefully you've got a feel for these profit max rules and whether a firm should shut down immediately, stay in for the short run but exit in the long run, or stay in for the long run. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.